Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Make a love shout out to all the subscribers and followers of this channel. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to like, share. Don't forget to ring the bell buttons for the next notification. Three, like, leave a comment, subscribe. Four, subscribe. All right, so let us continue our topic about inclusive education, and this is our part two. Okay, so we are now going to discuss the laws, plans, policies, and programs of about inclusive education. The 1987 Philippine Constitution enshrines the right to quality education for all citizens and mandates the state to take appropriate steps to make it accessible to all. That's Article 14, Section 1 of the Philippine Constitution. And the state must also establish an integrated education system built upon the needs of the people. Article 13. And the 2013 Enhanced Basic Education Act calls for learner-oriented and responsive education provision according to the needs, cognitive, cultural capacity, circumstances, and diversity of all learners through target-based programs. The 2015 Education Plan reaffirms the overarching nature of inclusive education for the policy and planning framework of for education for all. Okay, so we have the disability. The 1997 Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, amended in 2007, mandates the state to ensure that persons with disabilities have access to quality education, making education making special education provision able to serve various types of impairment, in particular the visually impaired, hearing impaired, and those with intellectual disabilities and other types of exceptional children throughout the country. In response to the implementation of the Magna Carta, the 1997 Department Order Number 26 on institutionalization of SPED programs in all schools, establish resource centers in regular schools to provide continuous support to children with special needs. The 2010 Department Order Strengthening Special Education Program at a basic education level finance regular secondary schools to train education personnel and provide the institutions with adequate teaching materials. The Memorandum Order 2000 and 2006 and 2008 contained provisions on reasonable accommodation in higher education. In particular, the 2008 Manual Regulations for Private Higher Education encourages private school education or private higher education institutions to admit students with disabilities. Inclusion of children with special needs was promoted in 2013 Early Years Act For example, through the use of Filipino Sign Language as a visual language of the deaf community, and 2013 with Enhanced Basic Education Act, which encourages the implementation of the alternative learning system to cater for the needs of the target group. In 2015, the 2015 Education Act or Plan 2015 Education Plan calls for an expansion of current basic education services through the multiplication of special education classes within regular elementary and secondary schools and through the inclusion of learners with disabilities into existing classrooms or existing regular classes. Okay, so gender. The gender equality is enshrined in 1997 Constitution, Article 14, Section 14. The 2009 Magna Carta or Philippine Magna Carta of Women establishes a non-discriminatory and pro-gender equality and equity framework for policy formulation and implementation. In relation to education, it reaffirms the right to equal access and elimination of discrimination in education, scholarships, and training. In addition, it declares unlawful discrimination in the education of women due to pregnancy, out of marriage in the form of expulsion, non-readmission, or enrollment provision. In 2013, a joint memorandum was adopted by various government bodies, including the Department of Education, to maintain gender perspectives in local planning program and budgeting. Ethnic and linguistic groups and indigenous groups. So this is part also of education, of inclusive education. Huh? So, encouraged by the 1997 Constitution, Article 14, Section 2, indigenous people education was formally regulated in 1997 Indigenous Peoples' Right Act. The latter lays down the indigenous people's right to equal access to cultural opportunities, including through the education system, where they have the right to receive education in their own language through the establishment and control of education institutions, respecting their cultural methods of teaching and learning. Although Filipino and English are recognized as official languages for communication and instructions, regional languages are also acknowledged to serve the auxiliary media of instruction. Okay. In response to the distinct educational needs of indigenous communities, the 2004 Department Order titled Permit to Operate Primary Schools for Indigenous Peoples and Cultural Communities allows the school curriculum to be adjusted according to the cultural interests of community as long as core learning competencies are cultivated. Based on the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, a 2010 Department Order on the Alternative Learning System Curriculum for Indigenous Peoples Education draws on alternative learning system curriculum while taking into account the concerns of indigenous peoples. The 2013 Enhanced Basic Education reaffirms that basic education for kindergarten and for the first 3 years of elementary education must be provided in language understood by the learners. So it's part of mandates through the uh, formulation education to formulate a mother tongue program from the first local language to English for other grades. Okay, so the policy level, 2011 Department adopting the national Department order adopting the National Indigenous Peoples education framework aim to create an inclusive and respectful education system for learners belonging to minority groups, ensuring universal and equitable access of all indigenous people to quality and relevant basic education, and providing adequate and culturally appropriate learning resources and environment. In particular, the framework intends to integrate indigenous knowledge systems and practices, and recruit and train teacher and learning facilitators engaged in implementing education programs for indigenous people. So since 2012 to 13, mother tongue based multilingual education, or the MTBMLE, has been implemented nationwide, with 19 local languages now used for instruction. The Philippine Response to Indigenous and Muslim Education Prime program is an education development initiative of the Department of Education that seeks to improve equitable access to the quality of basic education for girls and boys in disadvantaged indigenous and Muslim community. Of course, poverty is one of also of the reason. So within the school health and nutrition programs, the breakfast feeding program aims to improve the nutritional status of its beneficiaries and increase their attendance rate. Expanded to foreign regions, the program serves undernourished children from kindergarten to grade 3, with the introduction of implementation guidelines in 2012. The feeding initiative was renamed School-Based Feeding Program and gave more flexibility to schools. So, with the aim of addressing the poorest Filipinos, the Conditional Trust Transfer Program provides a monthly education subsidy to encourage school transferees. So, children engaged in labor. Okay, so the 2015 education plan identifies children engaged in labor as a specific group of unreached and underserved learners. It sets out to strengthen the implementation of distance learning programs at elementary and secondary levels to reach out to children who cannot attend regular schools. Okay, street children. The 2015 education plan calls for strengthening the current partnership between government agencies and partners and Department of Education to reach out to street children and their families and provide them with basic education and other activities. All right, so for we will post this for a while, so let's continue for the third part of our topic later for the inclusive education. So for questions or classification, please leave your comment at the comment section. Remember, children who learns together learn to live together, and gratitude is the best attitude. Love you all, guys. Happy New Year.